you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing all of our favorite Christmas cookies. I actually meant to share this video like weeks ago, but it has just been really busy with Christmas going on, wrapping presents, all of the things that come along with Christmas, but I'm finally getting this video up for you guys today. I'm sharing 7 different recipes in today's video. They're a really good variety, so I think there's definitely going to be something that your family will enjoy. If you are new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you. I share a lot of really easy recipes on my channel with a little bit of motherhood sprinkled in the mix. So if that is something that you're interested in, make sure you are subscribed. But let's go ahead and get into all of these cookie recipes. For these first cookies, I'm making some Andes chocolate cake cookies, and these were super easy because they're actually just made out of a cake mix. So this is a dark chocolate fudge cake mix. I just use the Duncan Hines brand, but any kind will work just fine. But I'm just opening that up and dumping it into my bowl. And then I'm also going to be adding in 2 eggs, about half a cup of oil, and then a good splash of vanilla, probably about a teaspoon. And you're just going to mix all of that together. Now that I have all of that mixed together, I'm going to be chopping up my Andes mints. So I actually bought the actual candy bars from the Andes brand. They're super yummy. I'm sure you guys know what kind of candies these are, but you can also just get the baking chips. Unfortunately, my Walmart did not have any. I couldn't find any in town, so I just bought these Andes mints and I just chopped them up myself, and I could hardly stop myself from eating them because these are my favorite. But this bag was about 10 ounces. The recipe actually called for 15 ounces. I definitely felt like there was enough chocolate in here, but you could also add a little bit more if you want to. I will have all of the recipes that I'm using linked down below, so it's super easy for you guys to follow along with. This is what the chips look like once they are all chopped up. Like I said, you can totally just use the baking chips if you want to skip this step, but that is what they ended up looking like. Now I'm just adding all of this chocolate right into the batter and giving it a good mix together. Now this was a pretty thin batter compared to a lot of cookie doughs, so go ahead and get it mixed up, and then this is actually going to chill in the fridge for about an hour. I definitely wouldn't skip that step, or I don't think the cookies will turn out very good. I think they would turn out very, very flat and they would spread out a lot, so definitely make sure that you chill your dough for about an hour. After my dough had chilled, I'm just taking my cookie dough scooper that I always use and scooping these out onto my baking sheet. Now I will say that these cookies turned out pretty thin. I actually probably only refrigerated mine for about 40 minutes just because I was on a time crunch, so they probably would have stayed a little bit thicker if I had put them in for the full amount of time, but these turned out really big, so you honestly can do a really small dollop of dough on there, and these are going to make some really good sized cookies. So I just threw these into the oven for probably about 10 minutes. They turned out really good. They were nice and crispy on the outside, but still really chewy and yummy on the inside. For this next recipe, I'm making a 5-minute fudge, and this was the best fudge that I have ever made or had. I've tried a lot of fudge over the years, and I'm honestly not usually a big fan, but this was super good. So I'm just starting off with my chocolate chips. Now the recipe actually called for chopped up chocolate, not chocolate chips, but I did not follow the rules, and you're gonna want about 12 ounces of milk chocolate chips and then 4 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips. I'm also adding in 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. I just dumped this into a microwave safe bowl with the chocolate chips, the sweetened condensed milk, and this is actually just going to get popped into the microwave, which makes this super easy. You don't even have to turn your stove on. This seriously only took me about 5 minutes to throw together, and it turned out so good. So I'm just mixing all of that together, and then I popped this into the microwave for about 3 minutes total, but I did it in 1-minute intervals. So put it in for a minute, stir it, and then continue on until you've reached that 3-minute mark. You just want to go until everything is really nice and melted and combined together. While my fudge was melting in the microwave, I'm just lining my 8x8 baking dish with some aluminum foil. This is just going to make for a really easy cleanup, and you'll be able to lift your fudge right out of there to cut it into some pretty small pieces. So I lined that, and then into my melted chocolate, I'm adding in about a tablespoon of butter, a little splash of some vanilla, and then you're also going to want a 7-ounce container of marshmallow fluff. And I think this is what made this fudge super delicious. It was very creamy. It wasn't overly sweet like a lot of fudge recipes, so definitely try this one out if you don't like a super sweet fudge, but it was super good, you guys. I'm normally not even a fan of fudge, and neither is my husband, but he really liked this recipe too, so it was super easy and so delicious. Now I'm just spraying my 8x8 baking dish with some cooking spray to make sure that nothing sticks to it, and then I'm just going to dump that fudge right into this pan and spread it out in a nice even layer. And you're definitely going to want to make sure that your fudge has fully set, so pop it into the fridge for about 3 to 4 hours before cutting it. If you don't wait that time, then your fudge is just going to fall apart when you try to cut it. So refrigerate it, and then once it's done, you can just pull your aluminum foil right out of your pan, and you'll be able to cut your fudge into some nice small pieces. Like I said, this was my favorite fudge I think I've ever tried, and it was so easy. A lot of fudge recipes can be kind of tricky to make sure that you get them right, but this one was so foolproof, super easy, so definitely a fun one to make for Christmas this year. Now for this next recipe, I'm making one of my all-time favorites. We are making some snickerdoodles, and these always turn out so good. So into my stand mixer here, I'm actually adding in the ingredients for a double batch, but to make it easier for you guys to follow along with, I'm just gonna give you the single batch ingredients. So here you're gonna want to add in half a cup of unsalted butter, half a cup of granulated sugar, as well as a 1/3 cup of brown sugar. And you're gonna get all of this mixed together for about 3 minutes. You want it to be really nice and light and fluffy. That's gonna make these cookies super delicious. And then you're gonna add in your eggs. So for a single batch, you're gonna want 1 egg with about a teaspoon of some vanilla extract. And again, you're gonna mix this for another 3 minutes. Now that everything is really well mixed together, we're going to be adding in all of the dry ingredients. So you're going to want about 1.5 cups of regular all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar, and then about a 1/4 teaspoon of just some regular salt. And you're just going to mix all of this in your stand mixer just until it's combined. You're definitely going to want to refrigerate this dough. I usually will refrigerate mine for a couple of hours, and then I will pull it out and get everything baked. So here in my bowl, I have about a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar with 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I just mixed it together, and then I'm rolling my cookie dough into balls, and then I'm going to dip that in the cinnamon and sugar mixture, and that is going to make these snickerdoodles super amazing. You guys definitely are going to want to try this recipe. It is like my all-time favorite. Now you're going to bake these in a 350-degree oven for about 9 minutes. Now you don't want to over bake these because we want them to stay really nice and soft in the middle. Once the top is no longer glossy, you can pull them out of the oven and you kind of let them just finish baking on the top of your oven, and they turn out absolutely amazing. I get so many compliments on these when I make them, so this is definitely a must-try recipe. Now for this next Christmas treat, we're going to be making some chocolate covered pretzels, which might seem super basic, but if you've never made them before, I just wanted to show you how. So you're going to start off with some almond bark. I always just melt mine in the microwave, and then all you're going to need is some pretzels. I always like to use the little rings just because they're super easy to dip. There's not all these little cracks and crevices that you have to get the chocolate in. So I definitely recommend trying the rings if you can find them in the store. They're just super easy to do, but all you're going to do is melt that almond bark in the microwave. It doesn't take very long at all. I usually do it in like 30-second increments until the chocolate is all melted, and then I just dip all of the pretzels in there. Once I have all of the chocolate covered pretzels dipped, I will make sure that the chocolate is cooled and that it's completely hardened before drizzling on the other chocolate. So I will always drizzle the white pretzels with the darker chocolate and vice versa. Or the other thing that you can do to kind of jazz these up a little bit is to just do sprinkles. Do whatever you prefer, but I really love the look of the drizzled chocolate. It's really pretty. And I also just love the consistency of the chocolate on there. I'm not a big fan of the sprinkles, but that is another option. But these are definitely really yummy and a quick and easy treat to make. For this next recipe, I'm going to be making some peanut butter kiss cookies, otherwise known as peanut butter blossoms, whatever you call them. But again, I'm starting off with my stand mixer. I'm adding in 1 stick of unsalted butter, and then you're going to want to add in half a cup of some creamy peanut butter. For the sugar, you're going to want half a cup of granulated sugar and half a cup of light brown sugar. And then you're just going to mix all of this together. You want it to get really nice and creamy. Once that has creamed together, you're going to add in your 1 egg with about a teaspoon of some vanilla extract. You're also going to want 2 tablespoons of milk. I'm just using 2% milk. And then you're going to get all of that mixed together before adding in your dry ingredients. For the dry ingredients, you're going to add 1 3/4 cup of just regular all-purpose flour. You're going to want 1 teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of regular salt, and you're just going to mix all of this together. Super easy, just mix it until it's all combined. You're going to want to chill these in the fridge for about an hour before you roll them out into balls. So once you have them in the fridge for an hour, you can just pull them out. I just rolled them into 1-inch balls and I dipped them in just some regular sugar, and then I'm going to pop them into the oven. I'm just throwing these onto my air baked cookie sheets. These are my all-time favorite cookie sheets. They work so good. You can get them off of Amazon, but you don't need to grease your sheets at all. Just pop these cookies right onto there. You're gonna bake them at 375 degrees for about like 9 minutes or so is what I usually put them in, and they should be nice and chewy when they come out. They stay pretty soft. They're absolutely delicious. Once they come out of the oven, they're gonna be really soft, and you're actually going to take a Hershey's Kiss and you're just going to push it down in the center. And these are like the best, most classic Christmas cookies. I'm sure all of you have had these at some point in your life, but this is definitely one of our favorites to make for the holidays. For this next recipe, I'm making some soft and chewy ginger snaps. These turned out so good, you guys. I loved them. So I'm starting off with 3/4 cup of unsalted butter, all at room temperature, and then I'm adding in 1 cup of sugar with a 1/4 cup of molasses. I'm also going to be adding in 1 large egg. Now this is where I made a little mistake. You should cream all of this together before adding in the dry ingredients, but I just went ahead and added everything at one time. Totally was not paying attention, but you're going to want to add in 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ground ginger, half a teaspoon of ground cloves, a 1/4 teaspoon of some ground nutmeg, as well as about half a teaspoon of salt. I know that's a lot to remember, so I'm going to have this full recipe linked down below for you guys, but then you're just going to mix all of that together. Now, like I mentioned, you should be mixing together all of your wet ingredients first before adding your dry in there, but because I forgot to do that, I just had to spend a little bit more time mixing this together. But you guys, these cookies turned out absolutely amazing. These are definitely a favorite for me. I'm definitely going to be making them years to come. I think this is just going to be something that I make every year. But I finished mixing that up, and then I just popped it into the fridge for about an hour to let the dough chill, and then I'm just going to roll it out into 1-inch balls. I added on some granulated sugar, and then these are just going to go right onto an ungreased cookie sheet. You're gonna bake these cookies at 350 degrees for about 9 to 10 minutes. When they come out of the oven, they're gonna be really nice and chewy. These were definitely my favorite ginger snaps that I have ever had. They're not like your classic crispy one, but they're really good and chewy. I definitely recommend trying this recipe out. So this next recipe is one that I've been making for years, but we are going to be making some Cowgirl holiday cookies. So this recipe is a little bit different because you actually just dump everything into your stand mixer and let it mix together. You don't have to do wet ingredients first, dry ingredients. You can just dump it all in there. But you're going to want 1 1/3 cup of regular all-purpose flour, about a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, 1 cup of cooking oats, and then I'm adding in 1/2 cup of brown sugar and 1/2 cup of white sugar. I do always like to add in a little splash of vanilla, 1/2 cup of melted butter, as well as 1 slightly beaten egg. And then I'm gonna mix all of this together before adding in the chocolate chips and the M&Ms. Once I have all of this mixed together, I'm going to be adding in my chocolate chips and my M&Ms. So this is 3/4 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips, and then I'm adding in 3/4 cup of some M&Ms. I always like to get the festive Christmas ones just to add a little pop of color in there. And then I'm just going to mix all of this together. And then you don't have to chill this dough. You can just pop this right onto your cookie sheet. So again, I always like to use my cookie dough scooper. You can see at the start here, I did not have my cookie dough scooper because it was actually dirty from a different recipe. And then I ended up going to wash it, and I ended up using it because I love this thing. If you don't have a cookie dough scooper, I highly recommend getting one. They just make making cookies so much easier. It's also a really great gift idea for somebody that you know who likes to bake. I'm baking these cookies in a 350 degree oven for about 9 or 10 minutes. This is what they look like when they come out. This is a really fun cookie to throw into a holiday tray with all of the colors in there. And this is also one of my husband's favorite cookies, so definitely give this one a shot. Alright guys, that is going to wrap up today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed all of these different recipes for Christmas cookies. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already. I would love to have you over on my channel for more easy recipes with a little bit of motherhood sprinkled in the mix. But that is going to be it for today's video, so I will catch you all next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!